Hello and welcome to Study of X. My name is Tim, and this is going to be an X-Men podcast where we cover the most recent Krakoa era of X-Men comics. These started in 2019 with the two minis House of X and Powers of X, and that is what we will be covering today. We will be starting with issue 1 of House of X before going into issue 1 of Powers of X if you would like to follow along with us. And it's not just me either, I got some friends joining us as well if they would like to introduce themselves.
Sure. My name is Chris. I kind of know the X-Men just because I grew up with the 90s cartoon, but I have read House of X, Powers of X before, so I'm really excited to get back into it.
All right. My name is Sergio, and I have extremely little experience with the franchise. I feel like I'm the wild card in this podcast. I have looked at pretty much nothing related to the X Men in a really long time. I think I might have seen a couple of movies, but it's not anything I constantly think about. So yeah, I'm gonna figure out if I like the X Men in this podcast, which seems exciting. The jury's still out.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully the answer is yes, but if it's not, that's fine too.
We'll
Uh,
only judge you a little bit.
yeah. Um, so yeah, as for me, I guess I should probably talk about that as well. I am relatively new. Say that I feel like that's not really true anymore. I've read most stuff from 2014 onwards, and I've also read all of Chris Claremont's run, which is pretty much like a big section of X-Men from the 70s to the 90s. Um, so yeah, I know a little bit of it. I can't say I'm like an expert on it or anything, but I have some familiarity with these characters.
Yeah, well, as far as I'm aware, you two are the lore masters in this podcast, and I'll be the lost soul you've dragged along to, have a fresh set of eyes on this material.
Yeah, that's kind of the goal of it. We're missing a little bit of a gap between like the 90s and the 2000s, but I doubt there's anything important that happened in those decades,
No,
so
I'm
it'll
sure.
be a
I'm
good
sure
time.
it's fine. No big
Yeah,
events or anything.
I'm sure it's fine. Yeah. I've been avoiding any sort of spoilers. Not that it's particularly hard for me. I'm not being like blasted with spoilers or X Men information at all. But I did go into the Goodreads section for these runs, for these issues, and there's a question that someone asked about whether they would be able to understand these comics without any previous information. And there are some questions. It's the jury is still very much out on this comments section, but the most upvoted one, I'm gonna shorten it a bit. Starts with, I think a new reader will be pretty much completely confused here. There are a lot of characters with extremely complex interwoven backstories. And then it says, think the last Avengers movie times 10. So I'm definitely very interested in figuring out whether I'll be able to sink or swim, as this responder puts it. You'll have to be my floating devices in this pool I'm diving straight into.
Yeah, just go head first right in there. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's that bad. I definitely don't think I would compare it into jumping into like a Last Avengers movie or whatever. But yeah, there probably is going to be a little bit of growing pains, but I do think this is a pretty good starting point, more or less.
No, I'd agree with that. I mean, when I first read this was really the first ongoing comic I ever read, so jumping into it with no X-Men knowledge was a little bit confusing, but you're able to pick up on a lot really quickly just by the way it's written, and hopefully having the two of us here will be able to help you out too.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get into that during our discussions, but so far I actually find it pretty parsable, to be honest.
Yeah, I do think it's an exaggeration. I think a lot of comics fans in general kind of make it sound a little bit harder to get into sometimes than it actually is. But yeah, we'll see. Do we wanna go into the first issue for this?
Sure, I can get started on that. So,
So I
oh,
think it might
go
be
ahead.
good to talk a little bit about the structure we're following here. So you have uh, summaries that
Right.
Chris has very kindly written for us.
Yes, they're more general summaries of the issue and what happens, not really diving too much into depth with it. Hopefully, we're going to be bringing that up as we discuss it afterwards, and the two of them here can hop in whenever they need to and make some comments or discuss something. We're kind of going more for a conversational flow with this, and just whatever comes up, we're going to talk about it.
Yeah. All right. Let's get started.
All right, perfect. So, for the first issue, we have House of X #1, the house that Xavier built. It was originally released back in July of 2019, written, of course, by Jonathan Hickman. And opening it up, we immediately have a quote from Professor X just right on the page. Humans of the planet Earth, while you slept, the world changed. And the second and third page that we turn to, immediately a bunch of questions. It's some sort of massive underground tree like object with eggs all around. There seem to be humans in the eggs that can hatch out of them, and Xavier is there kind of leading them together. And before we can get much else, we're off to somewhere else. We're brought over.
Normal stuff.
Normal stuff, of course. More normal stuff, at least. We are brought over into Jerusalem at the Krakoa habitat in the area. We have a couple of human ambassadors that are coming together, discussing what the mutants are doing and everything that they're asking for. And it's here we get our first kind of glimpse at what some of this change is that Professor X was talking about. It sounds like mutants are trying to create their own nation, and in return, they are offering drugs to the human populace. And all of these ambassadors, they all have different thoughts and feelings on all of this. And they're kind of getting into it a little bit when they're invited inside by Sophie and Esme. They're both daughters of Emma Frost. And as they are led into the habitat, they ask if when they're going to meet Xavier, and instead of talking to him, they find out that the tour is going to be led by Magneto. And again, like the first part, instead of finding out more about that, we are taken straight somewhere else. Uh, we're introduced to the first of many breakdowns that Hickman does in these comics, which is a very detailed breakdown and spread of just a lot of information. For this first one, it explains how the drugs that the mutants have created, how they work. We are shown that there's a section for humans with the drugs and how they work and what they do. And then there's a side for mutants, and this will only work for mutants. It seems to be that the flowers of Krakoa, one of the many things that they can do, is that it allows mutants to teleport between two places anywhere. There doesn't seem to be any restriction listed. Um, it's also told that these flowers can make a habitat, a self grown area that people can travel between. There is also something listed called a dead zone. It is a no place that Krakoa itself seems to know nothing about.
These
And
uh these human drugs are kind of nuts, by the way.
they are. We have three of them. There's a drug that extends human life by 5 years. There's a drug that prevents diseases of the mind, and also the most effective and adaptive antibiotic in the world. And
Sounds fine.
it sounds good. And mutants are just like, hey, you can have these. We just want an island and amnesty for everybody.
I feel like it's kind of telling you get the human drugs that are just incredibly beneficial, and the mutant ones feel along the same lines, but they're kind of just transportation based almost. Like this, it's okay. We have this flower that makes portals.
Yeah, very strategic.
Mm-hmm. And
So
as
I had a couple of questions. If
mm-hmm.
we go some pages back during the series of panels where we're shown the flowers being planted. I guess that's what we're looking at with the sequence of panels that go from 5 months until recent weeks ago.
Right, the Savage Land, Washington D.C., all that stuff.
Yeah. There are like mythological creatures. There's like a drake in the Washington D.C. one, and there's what look to be like baby raptors in the Savage Land. I are Do these come with Krakoa, or
S-
are they
Uh,
already there?
right. So, the Savage Land, the reason they got Velociraptors there, that is a area in Antarctica that this is some comic bullshit, by the way. It's an area in Antarctica that is still just kind of hanging out in like prehistoric time, basically. So that's where you go to find dinosaur.
Hmm.
Um, the Drake in Washington D.C. is Kitty Pryde's pet dragon. That is
Oh,
Lockheed.
okay,
Yes.
sure.
So yeah, it's not necessarily Krakoa stuff, but they're just various animals.
All right, that makes sense. Then there's also the appearance by Magneto. I feel like there's no possible way the ambassadors will think uh, well of the whole scheme when they send Magneto as an ambassador. I'm very dubious of the effectiveness of this decision.
Oh yeah, Magneto feels very Magneto in this role. It's kind of scary. He's very good at this.
At being intimidating, I don't feel like I don't feel like he's going to be trusted by the ambassadors if they were expecting, especially if they were expecting Xavier.
Right. Yeah, Magneto feels more of a show of force than like an extending hand almost. Like I don't know. I kind of took it to mean just like the mutants are very serious about this.
Sure.
Yes, that's kind of how I took it as well. It wasn't that, oh, Xavier's busy. It's, no, we're sending Magneto to make a point. And I think later on in the issue, what Magneto says kind of reinforces that. Just the way he acts and how much of a finality he has in his tone when he's talking to them. And I'm actually
Right.
kind
Yeah.
of,
They're just being put out of balance by his appearance.
Right.
yeah, and I'm actually kind of curious, Sergio. Do you know a lot about what Magneto has done, either as a hero or a villain?
Not much, honestly. As I said, I've seen the movies. I know enough to know that he's usually in the antagonist role. I have a good notion of his power set. I couldn't say what he's done concretely. I was
Go-
also going to ask if, and I guess I've already gotten my answer with some of the creature stuff that I just asked about earlier, whether it was safe to consider this sort of a soft reboot or an alternate universe, or if there was a line you could trace from some previous run into coming into this.
Uh, I I don't think there is a line you can trace as someone who has read the run before this. It feels kind of like a soft reboot. It's not a full reboot, but um, it definitely does feel like this is a reset of the status quo. Kind of evidence pointing to that is when they have the part where they kind of Jean Grey is leading the mutants through the gates. They list off a bunch of mutants that came with her. One of those is Banshee. In the previous run, that character died. So yeah, we don't really know what's up with that.
Okay, yeah, that's the section we're just about to start, so we might as well continue with the summary.
Yeah, I was gonna say perfect segue. So right after we are told about what the flowers of Krakoa can do for humans and for mutants, we go over to New York where Jean Grey is leading a couple of mutant kids, some teenagers, through one of the Krakoan portals, and as they're led through, we're cut over to some place on Krakoa, where Cypher and Sage, I believe, are working on getting a system up that will tell them the name of every mutant who walks through the portal. And like Tim said, one of them is Banshee, who was dead in the previous run. So there's a little bit of a reboot going on, but That seems to also be the theme that they're going for here, as Cypher says at the bottom of the page, is that the professor has changed all the old rules. It's implying what happened before was kind of the status quo, but going forward, they're trying something new. And I even remember that this event, this run, was billed as such in all of its promotional material. It was, oh, Hickman's gonna make a new uh, baseline for mutants. He's writing a new world for them and a new sandbox, and it was all that just building up to this.
Yeah, and just for a little bit more context here, the previous run there really isn't anything building to this. This run that we're in right now is definitely built off that run still existing, but there is no real through line from that to here.
And continuing on with Jean, as they go through the portal, the kids are looking around at the beautiful location, honestly, that they enter. And one of the kids sees Professor X and Wolverine just kind of enjoying the moment. And the kids go over there and have a good time with Wolverine. And for once, he's smiling and looks happy. I don't know that much about Wolverine, especially when I went into this, but seeing him happy was not common. I feel like he was always rather unhappy. So seeing him happy here kind of says something about what's going on, especially with what Xavier tells Jean is that she's home now and that everybody here is finally safe.
I'm sure that will continue being true forever.
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
nothing will ever go wrong. There's definitely no looming threat on like the next page.
No,
Yeah.
mutants always have a good time. They are never hunted or hated. That's a well-known fact.
Mm, yeah.
But on the next page, we are shown a map of Krakoa with about 12 different locations on it. It ranges from the House of X and the House of M to places called the Cradle and the Wild Hunt that we don't know anything about other than their name. We are shown that Krakoa is about kind of northeast of Australia, east of the Philippines over there, just to give it a place in the world.
Yeah, and there's hints of there being like Krakoa bubbles elsewhere, like not on Earth.
Yes, one of the flowers that was planted earlier, I believe it either says it is on the moon or
Yes.
it's yeah.
Yes,
So
it's straight up. Yeah, that's on the moon.
so there there doesn't seem to be a restriction to them.
Yeah, that is the blue area on the moon. I think is like in the Marvel universe, just a area of the moon that you can live on. It's where the Inhumans hung out for a while, I believe.
Hmm. I see. There's also, I think, a bit just skipped over where it's revealed that Krakoa is some sort of sentient entity, and it's got a lot of like creepy eyes looking at. I believe it is Sage and the other guy who are working on the traveling apparatus.
Yes,
Yes, yeah. The island is alive.
yes, and I remember looking this up at the time, but Krakoa itself is actually a really old X-Men villain, and it was created in the comics, maybe the first few dozen X-Men comics that came out is when Krakoa was first introduced. So it's been around for a really long time, but I don't think anybody really did anything with it until this run came along.
Yeah, it
Hmm.
was. Yeah, my I'll put on my nerd hat for a second. It was introduced in the first giant size X Men, which was pretty much the reboot into Claremont's run way back when. But yeah, Krakow has been around since the 70s, just not really in any important role before.
Hmm. Yeah, I believe in that X-Men issue, it was just a villain.
Right, it was kidnapping mutants. It kidnapped the old X Men team.
Was it still an island?
Yes, it feeds on mutants, I believe. Want to talk about the space villains we got hanging out around the
Yes,
sun?
Yes, so of course, again, nothing bad ever happens to mutants. So we head on into space, where a bunch of humans that are identified as Orcus are heading towards a some sort of a station very, very close to the sun. They head to the location, go inside, make sure everything is good and set up, and once they find that the air is breathable and everything has been set up correctly, they go about working on what they have set out to do. And at first, we don't really know what that is other than the Orcus protocols have been activated and that the mutants need to be taken care of. And as they're discussing this, they get further and further into the space station until it pulls out on the last panel and we see a massive sentinel head ringed by the rest of the space station. And I will admit, I remember reading this at first and having no clue what that was or really why that mattered. It wasn't until I think Tim actually you described what was the big deal about this space station. If you wanted to go into that,
The Citadel itself, or just the space station?
the Sentinel itself.
Right. Yeah. So Sentinels are pretty much like mutants' mortal enemy. They are robots created by humans. Uh, they are made specifically to just kind of hunt mutants down, either in prison or kill them. Not a good friend. Uh, so Sentinels will specifically be created by Master Mold, which is like that giant head thing. Usually they are not this big. This is pretty large. Um, so yeah, that's not good. That's not a friend.
Yeah,
I
and oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I found it really on the nose going back a couple of pages, right at the beginning of this section. That on the very first page we find that the whoever's piloting this ship is called Mendel, I believe, and then next page or a couple of pages later we find out that there's a character named Gregor, and then yeah, I had no idea there were Sentinel heads that big. I've been using Sentinels a lot in Marvel Snap recently because I really got into that, which has been a funny coincidence coming into this podcast.
I've heard things about Marvel Snap, but yeah. Um, what's the Gregor reference?
Gregor Mendel is the biologist who found, or rather discovered, like inheritance of genes.
Oh wow, yeah, that is really on the nose.
Hmm. That also perfectly ties into how Dr. Gregor, Dr. Alia Gregor, is kind of the ideological backing of the Orcus protocols. Right after we are shown the mother mold head right around the sun, we get another breakdown page of what exactly the Orcus protocols are. It is a establishment of a doomsday network based on an evolutionary research regarding the extinction level population density of Homo sapiens superior, written by Dr. Alia Gregor. Essentially, she found out that if it wasn't for the Genosian genocide, which killed millions of mutants not that long before, mutants would have become the dominant population on Earth really quickly. And this clearly freaked out a lot of people because Orcus is made up of, what is it, 8 different Marvel Universe human groups, most of which are usually enemies with each other. You have Shield working with Hydra, you have AIM working with Sword, and so on, all together under this one group that their primary goal is to make sure that the mutants don't win.
Yeah, yeah, it's not good news. The other kind of interesting thing I think to note here, Karima is a former X-Men, actually.
Oh, is she really?
Yes, that is the she's a robot friend they got up on the space station. But yeah, I have not read anything she is in, so I know nothing about that character. But yeah, apparently she was an X-Men at one point.
Well, that's one hell of a heel turn, that's for sure.
There's, I think, a mention of there being robots down on some planet surface doing mining operations.
Right, yeah, they mentioned that they don't have a lot of robots up there and they're mining for metal, I believe.
Yes, it looks like they're mining on Mercury right now.
Yeah. Are those also Sentinels, or are those just regular robots?
I don't know right now.
There's a yeah. I think there's a line. Yeah, I think there's a line at some point where it says, "We might as well make more," and they look at the mother mold.
Right, yeah. So I feel like the conclusion there would be that they are most likely Sentinels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems to imply it at least. Tim, are Sentinels normally like Karima, or are they not as sophisticated? Because I remember from the cartoon that Sentinels were more just generic, very robotic, and very big, not human-like.
The general look of a Sentinel will be like just that, pretty much what you described, a just kind of generic robot. Pretty much
Got
your image from the X-Men cartoon is usually what they'll end up looking like.
got it. Okay, so Karima is a special case.
Yeah, she is specifically. I think her name is an Omega Sentinel. I don't really know what that entails. Again, never read anything with her in it before this, but that is what she is.
Got it. Okay.
This panel, by the way, with the huge Sentinel head on the space station, it's really good. I really like how evocative it is, especially because they kind of hold back on showing the station until this last panel before the next section. And I think that's really effective.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like the paneling here is very like confined. We're just seeing like corridors and stuff, and then aside from the establishing shot where you see kind of the space station flying toward the sun. Um, so yeah, I really like that just last shot of just this giant head. We want to go into the Mystique section.
And the problem of Sabretooth. So the next section, right after we are introduced to our space villains, is Mystique, Sabretooth, and Toad having broken into a place called Damage Control, where Toad is trying to steal some information while Sabretooth nicely holds off the guards, and Mystique is trying to get everybody to hurry up.
There's like eight dead bodies surrounding Sabretooth. It's kind of excessive.
Yes, and he's killing more in several panels. So he's playing nice, like he always does. Um, but they're able to get the information they need, and they blow a hole through the side of the building, leap out, and decide that they really need to make a run for it. But before they're able to really even take a step, the Human Torch and the Thing from the Fantastic Four show up to stop them. Sabretooth, of course, is going to go up and meet them and immediately just gets cold clocked by the Thing. And as he's losing that battle, Mystique and Toad decide to just book it. All they need to do is get out. And in the theme of the rest of this issue, we cut to another page describing what damage control is. We find that damage control is a corporate entity that essentially takes control of metahuman and superhuman technology when it's not clear who owns it. So the example that they give here is if Reed Richards or Tony Stark died for a period of time, who gets their technology? And according to damage control, it's them. So they list a good amount of items that they have, including a lot of Iron Mans, a couple of other things, and something called Soul's Hammer and Soul's Anvil, which will come into importance later.
Hmm. I think this section is probably my least favorite out of this issue. This one and the one that follows the same story. Mostly because I'm a huge fan of like heists stories, and we're just being told there was a heist, and I didn't get to look at how it went, other than the hints with the dead bodies on the floor. And then I feel like they um, made a really bad team if they wanted to put Mystique with Sabretooth. I don't know if this is right, but I have the idea that Mystique is more about like being hyper efficient, stealth, maybe a little bit of social engineering, while Sabretooth seems to be more blunt in his methods. I feel like that's just a bad team up. They were just asking for complications there.
Yeah, it feels like the Mystique Toad team up could have worked if they were trying to get in quietly, and maybe they brought along Sabretooth for the muscle, but I don't know. This feels like she was being set up for failure. I agree.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm disappointed because I'm being told way too much and shown way too little, and this is something I would have liked to be shown. But the team up in particular, I feel like there were some bad decisions made when they were setting this up.
I do really like the note here that apparently Tony Stark and Reed Richards got around this rights issue that they had with their technology by continuing to give the other the rights to their shit if anything were to happen to them. But then because of comic bullshit, they were both gone at the same time, so all the rights just went to damage control.
No, I also like that, and I also like that both Stark and Richards have both said that no, they own it and it is theirs, while Damage Control is over here like, no, actually, it's ours. Um, yeah, keep believing that for now. So, moving on from damage control, we're going back to the ambassadors. This time they are led into the first inside of a Krakoan habitat that we see, and it's a massive, almost crystalline structure. It's honestly very pretty, and I love the colors that they use here. Um, and as they enter there and are shown that there are multiple gates in the area, it explains that they asked Krakoa to grow some signs above the different portals to say where they go. And the ambassadors look at it and can't read it. And Magneto chimes in that no, that is on purpose. You can't read it because it's a mutant language. And that they created their own language to be able to create the distinct culture that they've always wanted.
I feel like it's uh I'm finding it very hard to convince myself that there's any chance that they'll be able to create a distinct culture that's outside of humanity, which seems to be what they're really aiming for. But they say that the language, if I'm not mistaken, is kind of an amalgam of human languages, and I feel like the leadership here. There's this whole conversation with Magneto about them othering themselves from humanity. When if you're gonna put in the leadership of your new country, people that have been in Earth and have experience with politics and have experience with dealing with other people and war and have probably committed crimes and things like that, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure if you truly want something unique. There's a conversation later on about the uses of Krakoa militarily, and then there's a really silly line I'm going to point out. But yeah, I just don't buy anything that the mutants are saying to the people here. I'm really not convinced by their pitch.
That's interesting that you're not convinced by it. I remember reading this and I came into it seeing what they were going for. The mutants have always been hunted, they've always been hated simply for who they are. So they now seem to finally be getting the chance to live the life that they want, be who they are without anybody trying to kill them or hold them down. And the culture aspect of it that Magneto talks about does seem a bit much, but the fact that they're even going that far and saying, no, this is ours, this is not yours, this is something that we have. I don't know, it made sense considering everything else that they've ever gone through. Just finally being able to say, no, we are mutants and we're very proud of that.
The language aspect I think is interesting because while they did create a new written language, it doesn't seem like they speak it, and I don't know if they're ever going to actually make a culture that's truly distinct from everyone else, just because it's a bunch of people coming from different backgrounds, as we can kind of see as we're going through it.
Mm-hmm. There,
Yeah, the way they're setting this whole thing up, they're still like doing diplomacy. They're still they bought a drug company. They're, I guess, selling this to other nations in exchange for amnesty and all of this stuff. I don't know where they're getting money from. I don't know if they are using money at all. I don't know what kind of activities the mutants are free to do on their own time while living in Krakoa. But I'm really curious about all this stuff. I just feel like they're compromising themselves by interfacing way too much with politics in general, and then putting in charge people who are older and have lived in Earth for most of their lives. So they're probably just already compromised in terms of being able to build a distinct thing.
Yeah, I think if you want to build a distinct thing, you really have to kind of just like have younger people running this, and that doesn't seem to be the case so far.
No.
Uh, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Mhm.
Um, you want to keep taking us through Krakoa?
Sure. Kind of speaking to what Sergio was going to be talking about. Uh, Once they finish talking about making their own culture, they lead the ambassadors through a couple of Krakoan portals. We see them go through a couple locations. One almost kind of looks like Australia. The other is very high up in snowy mountains. The other is underwater. And then they're taken through these locations, and one of the ambassadors chimes in and says that while this is very impressive, the military implications of it all are very grave. And Sergio, I don't know if you wanted to cut in about the comments that you had there.
Yeah, I mean, Magneto basically goes, "Look, we simply wouldn't do a war. That's
Yeah,
our
yeah. It's
that's our solution.
just
Yeah, we simply wouldn't do it.
don't worry about it.
Yeah, just don't worry about it. I'm Magneto."
Yeah, because that like I will say this: the ambassador is they're kind of spot on here. Like that's terrifying to just be able to like move a massive amount of people with almost no effort. Um,
Yeah, I mean, it's very unbelievable that they wouldn't use this for what others would interpret as military purposes.
right.
Like, I'm sure they can find some justification in themselves for like acting um, in their favor in a way that is not construed as military for them, but would be construed as some sort of offensive operation by other nations.
Yeah, like maybe it won't be just a straight up war, but like yeah, no, they're mutants. We do superhero stuff. We're absolutely going to use this at some point for some kind of combat applications, some kind of offensive applications.
Yeah, and this goes back to my comment earlier. If you're gonna have in leadership someone who can even like understand the military advantages that this can potentially provide, then it's going to be used that way inevitably.
Right. And I can see where you're both coming from, but I'm going to be the on the other side of it and say I don't think that's what Magneto was actually going for, is not that they don't have military minds over there thinking about this. It's more, we don't have a history of any of this. We aren't going to be doing this while you have. Humans have done all of these things, but mutants have never done that. We don't have something you could point to and say, "Hey, we're going to go do that again." It's no, we don't. We are it almost comes across as we are better than you, but I almost think that's just because of how Magneto is, and his way of saying things is, of course, he believes he's better than humans. That's
I
always how he's been.
I will say this: I do think a lot of what Magneto is doing here is very intentional. Um, I think it is purposefully intimidating, and
Yeah,
yeah, we'll get to that a little bit more, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm very interested in the kind of delineation between human and mutant being drawn here. I'm sure there's a history, as Chris has said, of what happened before and human and mutant relationships and all of that history. But I, maybe as a new reader, find it really hard to make a very marked difference between mutants and humans. In the sense that to me, uh, mutants arise of humanity. They are a mutation, as the name implies, and as such can't really claim to own a culture in that way, or claim to like distance themselves from the war-making humans in that way. So I'm very interested in what's behind there.
Yeah, and I honestly feel like they couldn't either. But on the other hand, I will say I do feel like that is kind of mostly on the humans have done a lot of othering.
Yes, and one of the comics that I read about the X Men before I ever jumped into any of this was essentially covering that very same thing of in a world where Spider-Man and Captain America and the Avengers exist, why is it that mutants are the ones that are hated so much for just who they are? Because they are. They're just a mutation of humans. For them, to mutants, as Magneto says here at the bottom of the page, is mutants are the next evolutionary step for humanity. So, as you know, humans evolved over time, their next step is mutants. And mutants believe that, a lot of humans believe that, but fear it at the same time. So, like Tim was saying, a lot of humanity has done a very good job at othering mutants simply because they're born mutant. So I think a lot of this kind of in-group behavior that Magneto is talking about, where this is only for mutants, this is us, this is who we are, is just a byproduct of them being hated and run off every single chance that they show up. And kind of building off the back of that, one of the last things that Magneto says here is an ambassador asks when they're going to go to Krakoa. They've been shown all of these habitats, but not the actual island. And Magneto says that mutants are the inheritor of the planets. That's who they are. And instead of taking it over and taking all of it, uh, Xavier has offered in brotherly love the drugs and benefits of Krakoa, but that means that Krakoa is only for mutants. No humans can go there. And again, instead of getting more of that, we cut right back to Mystique and Sabretooth and Toad fighting the Thing and the Human Torch as they race towards a Krakoan portal. Mystique and Toad are able to make their way through, but Sabretooth is cut off at the very last second as the rest of the Fantastic Four show up, and Sue Storm is able to put up a barrier and catches him. And as they're kind of getting their bearings back, the portal opens up again and Cyclops steps through. He says hello to everybody, very friendly, and he kind of goes up to Reed Richards and says that he needs to take Sabretooth off of his hands. He has to take him back. And Mr. Fantastic does not want to do that, considering Sabretooth did probably kill about 8 or 9 guards back at Damage Control. Cyclops reminds him of the amnesty that is being extended to all mutants, regardless of what they do. And unfortunately, or fortunately, that includes Sabretooth. And Reed doesn't seem like he's going to be backing down, but before anything happens, Cyclops backs off. This makes Sabretooth pretty upset, but Cyclops doesn't see that there's worth a fight here. He figures they maybe will be able to get Sabretooth some other way.
So is the amnesty in effect here?
It seems to be.
Yeah, because it felt like the I guess there was no American ambassador back at the Habitat, was there?
No. It's revealed later. There's an ambassador from China. There's an ambassador from I think France. But there was nobody from the U.S.
So I wonder if that means by this point the U.S. has already recognized Krakoa's amnesty arrangement.
Yeah, with I would guess that's what's going on with the way this is worded. I feel like Cyclops wouldn't just show up being like, "Oh, we got amnesty," when they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Mhm. Uh, but before Cyclops leaves, Sue Storm asks him what he thinks of this amnesty and what Xavier is doing, and Cyclops responds like he should and says that his family has been hunted for their entire lives. People always told him that he was less than simply because of who he was born as. So, of course, they weren't going to sit around and take it forever. They were at some point going to try and make something for themselves. And it is not said here, but the way the panel is structured almost seems to imply that Cyclops is a little bit upset by the question that she asks. Because not only does he turn away saying that he believes in Xavier, he also says to please let Reed and Sue's son know that if he ever wants to go to Krakoa, he has family there. I don't know if the both of you got that impression as well, but I got the impression that it was very tense and not a very fun topic for either of them to bring up.
Yeah, they're not smiling in that conversation.
No, I love this exchange here actually between just kind of Cyclops and Reed in general. Just the friendliness of it just turned into like just this incredible tension. Um, I don't know. It's good stuff. I like it a lot. Cyclops is not happy. Neither are the Fantastic Four. Like it's very much that starts off with the characters just greeting each other as friends before it just kind of morphs into we got to do politics now.
Yeah, it turns sour really quick.
Mm-hmm. And as we go to the next page, we're greeted with a breakdown of what an Omega level mutant is. Just to give a very quick summary, an Omega level mutant is somebody whose dominant power is deemed to register at an undefinable upper limit of that classification. So, to give an example, that would be Iceman. Iceman can turn his whole body into ice and can also freeze anything using kind of almost like a frost ray almost. I know at first he was kind of a strong mutant, but he got a upgrade at one point a couple years ago where it was stated he can slow down things on the molecular level and that's how he freezes them. So that's kind of an example of what an Omega level mutant is. It's somebody who is so strong they don't have a top level. And also, one of the individuals that they mention here is Franklin Richards, which is Mr. Fantastic and Sue Storm's son. I want to say he's rather new. I don't know when he was originally created as a character, but uh,
He's been around for a bit too.
okay, okay. He is an incredibly strong mutant. I read one of Jonathan Hickman's other runs where he did the Fantastic Four. And Sergio, to give you an example, Franklin Richards is so strong that in his bedroom closet, he made his own universe just because he could, and he was a child when he did so.
As one does, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as one does. But it is also good to note that out of the list of Omega level mutants on here, most of them are aligned with Krakoa. A couple of them are unknown, but Franklin Richards is the only Omega level mutant that is aligned specifically with humans.
Yeah,
Hmm.
we have two unknowns with Legion and Mr. M, and then two nuns with Monarch and Exodus.
Right. Yeah, looking at this list, it's really evident how little I know about X-Men in general. I recognize like four names at most.
Not all of these are the most recognizable.
Yeah, I mean, Marvel Girl is Jean Grey. Probably know who that is. Same with Magneto, Storm. But a lot of these,
Uh-huh.
yeah, I there's a couple on here actually I do not know. Even looking at this list, so it's not just you.
Yeah, this is what I signed up for.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, thankfully you will meet a good amount of these characters pretty soon, so you'll start to get to recognize the names. But
All right.
moving on from this breakdown of Omega level mutants, we're back with the ambassadors. They are back in Jerusalem, having finished their tour, and Magneto is there with the rest of them at the top of the building, and he asks what they've learned. And one of the ambassadors begins to describe what they've learned, and he stops them and he's like, "No, no, no, I wasn't talking to you." And instead, I believe it's Esme, starts talking, and she reveals that she has been psychically scanning every single ambassador there to figure out what their true allegiance is. Uh, Several of the ambassadors are there, honestly, as ambassadors for their country, but each of them have their own agenda. For instance, the ambassador from China is here, and he has already been told that his country is very likely to agree with what the mutants are offering. Whereas another ambassador bought his way into it with a private sector pharmaceutical money. And as she is going through the list here, she comes to the last two, one of which is an agent of strike, and he has been tasked to watch somebody else who is an ex-Shield and Sword Black Ops agent. And as she is trying to figure out the last bit of allegiance that he has that he seems to be hiding, she notes that he actually has a gun on him. And Magneto immediately goes into action and disassembles the gun midair. And I actually like this bit of it right here, whereas after the gun is taken away from him, the ambassador says, "I wasn't going to use it, it was just for protection." And Magneto instantly shoots back with, "Of course, that's how it always starts." Just to kind of show you what the relationship is with most of these people and with Magneto, that it is always how it starts, and I kind of like the parallel there that they're going for of these people are afraid of mutants. They're carrying weapons on them loaded, ready to go, just in case they need it. They don't mean it as a sign of aggression, but I don't know how else you would take that if somebody brought a weapon just to meet you.
Relationships are so tense at the very beginning of the issue. I don't think anyone was coming here in good faith. Not even the mutants, if who were the ambassadors were expecting, was Xavier. So they're all playing their own games.
Yeah, and I think it kind of shows it too. Like Magneto's clearly here trying to get information out of these people. All of them had their own agendas. Like no one was here to actually listen to the pitch or give a pitch.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, psychic like scanning their minds is not the goodwill move
No,
that
no, it is not.
you may think it is.
Um, yeah, and either is, yeah, not like just almost none of this stuff is goodwill.
Yeah, it does pay off, but it shows how much all of this is kind of a facade for just intelligence gathering and figuring out what the other factions are doing, which is interesting. It's just not what the pitch was originally for neither of the meeting groups.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention also the agents that Magneto takes the gun away from. He's ex Shield and Sword, and he's got another affiliation that they can't get out of him. I'm wondering if he's actually Orcus.
Oh yeah, yeah. This
Yeah, I
dude's
think that's the
yeah.
implication.
This dude's absolutely Orcus. I yeah
Okay, yeah, because I super did not catch that the first time around, and reading it again, I'm like, wait a second.
yeah.
So, but as you were both saying, everybody here has their own secret agenda, and Magneto point blank says that. And he goes up to the ambassador that he disarmed and says that he has learned very harsh lessons from your kind and that all of you are wolves. And that it was a
Oh,
good thing that all of you are now shown to be who you really are, so there are no hidden things between us. And we can finally discuss openly what we've been talking about.
I feel like going up to is underselling it a little bit. Magneto like looms over this man.
Yeah, they're close enough to like smooch each other if they wanted to. They're
He,
really close.
yeah, he's just towering over him. Got the sun to his back. It's scary looking. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, especially considering Magneto is a known villain who's not afraid to kill people for his cause.
Right.
So there's that. And I also like the contrast that he gives here also with Charles Xavier, because normally he and Xavier are enemies to each other, but clearly they're working together for this project. And after Magneto tells them that it's good that they're finally showing who they truly are, he says, Charles Xavier has made you an offer, one full of grace and brotherly love, but one that is also written in stone. This is not a negotiation. Things will be different now, and the sooner you realize the finality of your situation and the inevitability of ours, the sooner you will learn to be grateful for the things we are so generously giving you. Kind of going back to earlier, we were talking about how Magneto was probably sent to do this as a show of force, and he's loving it. He's having such a good time scaring the shit out of these people. He loves being like, I'm the bad cop of the situation, and you all need to realize that I'm being held back because Charles Xavier is being nice to you, so you should accept that.
I wonder about that. It feels like the Charles Xavier character in this run feels really different from the one that I'm used to from the movies and the TV show and stuff I've been exposed to. So I wonder if it was Xavier having this conversation in his place, if it would have been that much different.
Yeah, I feel like Magneto is very much kind of propping up this ideal image of Xavier, of this very gracious person, when, yeah, that doesn't really match reality, as we'll end up seeing later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Xavier is exactly being as benevolent and generous as Magneto is describing him to be, or as this first issue is showing him to be with his very short appearances.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to get into that with Powers of X from the little bit we see of Xavier.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but to continue Magneto's threats, one of the ambassadors just straight up asks him, Did you bring us here to threaten us? And he says, A promise is not a threat. And I summoned you to this place for wholly superficial reasons. And he knows that humans love their symbolism, and obviously they're in Jerusalem. And he wanted these ambassadors to understand that the mutants are their new gods now. This is not a question, this is not a possibility. It's already happened.
Fully mask off.
Fully
Yeah,
mask off,
just
here we are.
this is what this is now. Here is some gifts. Don't fuck with us.
Yeah. And the last page of the whole issue is a quote by Magneto that says, I have a new word for the lexicon of man, Krakoa, and in the future, when you speak it, make sure you do so softly and with proper deference, for we will be listening.
It is I find it interesting how willing they are to just be just completely mask off here. Like they absolutely know that what they are offering is too good for them to pass up.
Which is extra interesting considering at least one of the ambassadors has already been revealed that she is going to decline this. And
Right.
a couple of the others seem hesitant. So even though this is an incredible offer, humans get these amazing, incredible drugs, mutants get their own island and get to live there, you still have some hesitant people gonna say no.
Right.
And you also have our villains in space preparing their secret protocols to destroy the mutants. So even with all of these olive branches that they're offering, people are still saying, no, 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 you need to knock it off.
Yeah. Um, I I think I like this issue on the whole. There's a lot of threats being spun, but they're mostly easy to follow. And as was discussed before, I think even if I don't know a lot about the franchise in general, You get enough information from each character to know kind of what their vibe is. So I so far find it actually pretty easy to follow. I think the story may be different for Powers of X, but at least for this one, I think it's decent. It's decent as a starting point.
No, I would agree with that. For being number one of an issue, a start of a brand new story and era that they're trying to go for, it sets up a lot of things in the pages that it has. And even though we jumped between, I think, 4 or 5 different plot lines all being started, it didn't feel disconnected, which is a little weird. They all had to do with the same thing of mutants setting up Krakoa. So even though on one hand we're in space, and then the next we're back with Mystique, and then we're back with the ambassadors, everything worked together surprisingly really well. And I think they did a really, really good job with it.
I also really find the pages where we basically just get a lot of exposition in the form of like files and diagrams and breakdowns of like organizations and taxonomies and stuff like that. Really interesting as a as a literary artifact. Um, I can see why someone would maybe think it's lazy writing or a lot of telling instead of showing, but I think these are actually pretty appealing. They're a pretty good way of getting information in quickly, catching people up to speed on terms without them being completely lost by what's happening. Like the one following the uh, very brief Orcus appearances. Um, it was actually pretty helpful to guide the reader on what was going on those pages, which
Right.
is
Yeah. We
pretty funny that it provides information retroactively that way. It almost makes me want to go back and read those pages again after I read this new page that I flipped to, which I think is an interesting.
yeah. Like you get all the context, and it's just like, oh, okay, should I go back and see what this reads like with knowing what these people are? Um,
Right.
Yeah, and I agree. I think it helps. Like, I think you get a decent idea of what Orcus exactly is just from their introduction here. But this kind of page here where they just really go into depth about what they are doing, why they are doing what they're doing, I think is just helpful. And I don't know. I don't know if any of this stuff it makes sense to just go out of your way to just talk about. Like, how are you going to get the Orcus makeup of all these organizations that like comprise this thing without it just being real clunky, I guess.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
was
mean, what you'd have to do is some, as you said, very clunky exposition of characters stating what they all already know for the convenience of the audience, which I think it's good to just drop all pretenses and just provide the information in an easy to parse way,
Yeah, like you don't need a
which is
character
good.
sitting there going like, as you know, we're made up of 16% strike. Yeah,
mhm
like
mhm.
no one cares that much. Like it's nice to know it, but we don't need a character just saying it like that. Um, but yeah, this is really interesting. Also, the just kind of going into this a little bit, the organizations that do kind of make up Orcus. This is a there's probably something to say that these organizations probably weren't ever truly good, but a lot of these organizations are some that are very mask off evil, with some that are very kind of like almost CIA-ish, but going for working for countries that we would kind of consider like the good guys.
Yeah, so still evil.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Tools of
Yes,
Empire.
yes.
Yeah. Still evil, but I feel like it's a lot more mask off than what I would expect from comics. Like you got Hydra sitting here working with Shield.
Right.
Yeah, so even though the real life parallels are still evil, in the comics world, they're still trying to do good and still pretending to be heroes, and some believe that they are. So
Well,
when go ahead.
yeah, in a way, I don't know. There's definitely been comics, probably in the 2000s that were a little bit less kind with portrayals of Shield and whatnot.
I was gonna say Shield kind of had a rocky history, but not as blatantly evil as Hydra. The we want the octopus fascists to take over. Um, but I agree that I think it says something when you have the we're wink wink trying to do good with no, we just want to take over the world, and the two of them can join hands and say, actually, we both hate mutants. That kind of that kind of says something about how badly some people hate mutants.
Yeah, and I feel like it just kind of says something about like where a lot of these people's priorities actually were.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
you're willing to just hang out with these Nazi dudes to get what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
AIM is also an organization that is not exactly good at all. That is evil scientist organization, pretty much.
Mhm.
It's not the most ethical science.
Sergio, have you ever seen anything with Marvel where there are individuals wearing yellow hazmat suits, usually have guns?
Not that I can think of. No.
Okay, if I don't know if there's even in Marvel Snap, but if you see them, that's AIM. They dress up all in yellow jumpsuits and yeah, do evil science. That is their whole thing.
I found just kind of going into the Orcus stuff a little bit more. I did find what Gregor or what Dr. Gregor, her whole thing I found very interesting. What she was researching originally was, are mutants doomed, and like how to help them out once they had like gone through a genocide, and instead found out the opposite. And this made her kind of hard turn from sympathetic to we need to wipe them out. uh and I don't know, that's real fucked up. Like,
Yeah, there's no easy way to put that, is that it's really fucked up. She was going to be a humanitarian, saw that the people she was going to help were just going to outnumber her, and she went, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, hang on. Hang on. Let's not do this."
it is it's interesting just saying that, because it kind of puts her motivations, like even when she was kind of looking at it from a humanitarian angle, it wasn't for, like she was looking at it in a way where she pitied them at first and then figured out they were a threat and then went to fearing them instead.
Yeah. Although I do think it's interesting because, Sergio, I know you mentioned earlier if there was any through line from past of storylines that went into this, and while there really isn't, the story still picks up where mutants were in general before this story started. So you had the Genosian genocide where millions of mutants died. You had the events of House of M where a lot of mutants lost their powers. So mutants going into this kind of were on a shitty point, honestly.
Yeah, the Uncanny X-Men run that happened before this is very very bleak and not in a good way. Um, a lot of mutants end up getting trapped in imperilled dimensions, so you kind of have this ragtag group of X-Men form in their absence. There is one mutant that someone hits on her. Uh, Man, I feel like we should put a content warning before this. A guy hits on her in a park. Um, his friends find out that she's a mutant and they beat her to death while she refuses to use her mutant power because she is ashamed of it. So, yeah, pretty big jump from that to this.
Yeah. So when Magneto's like, "Hey, we just want our island and no humans can go there," I'm like, "You know what, buddy? Go for it. I'm here for you. You do that."
So do you want to go into Powers of X?
Do you want to take a break maybe before we actually go into that?
Right. Okay. Yeah, that works.
All right. So I'll put a transition here and we should be good.
So with that, let's go into Powers of X number one.
All right. With Powers of X number one, The Last Dream of Professor X. Originally released July 2019 and also written by Jonathan Hickman. We open with Xavier uh, kind of throughout the years, at least for the first two parts. We have X-Men Year 1, Year 10, Year 100, and Year 1000, each with different individuals on the panels.
Yeah,
And oh, go ahead.
yeah. So just for elaborate a little bit more on that, it feels like almost four separate timelines. X1 feels like the timeline that we're seeing in House of X. Uh, X2 and X3 feel like far future type stuff, while X0 feels like past.
Yeah, I definitely got that vibe.
Yeah, I did as well. And going into the next page, we have Year 1 for the X-Men, and it's a young Charles Xavier at some sort of a circus. He seems to be enjoying himself, just kind of sitting and watching everything, when a young woman comes up to him and strikes up a conversation. They talk about how the fair is and how it's going, and she mentions that on her way over to sit and speak with him, she stopped by a fortune teller who told her her fortunes, with three very interesting tarot card readings, one of the magician, the tower, and the devil. And the three of which are on the cover for the issue as well. And once she describes that, she said as she was walking over, she saw the strong man, Professor X, and that's why she decided to strike up a conversation with him.
Yeah. So just based on these tarot cards, also the magician and the devil specifically are two characters we'll end up seeing a little bit later. The magician is Rasputin, while the devil is Cardinal. Well, a cardinal.
Yes, and for the third one, the tower, we will also see that later as well.
Right.
So it's just very early foreshadowing of what's about to come up. But as this woman talks to Xavier, she asks him why he was smiling. And he says he was dreaming of a better world and his place in it. And she says, well, here's the thing, Charles. It's not a dream if it's real. And she immediately implies that she knows him a lot more than he seems to know her. And as he questions that, she simply tells him to read her mind to see what it is, how they know each other. And all we get is Xavier looking very surprised before we cut to something else and get no answer to that question.
I really like the expressions in this whole conversation. Like there's very subtle changes in between panels. We see Xavier smiling and stuff like that. The wide open eyes when he's reading her mind. I feel like this is real good stuff. I feel like they get across a whole lot of extra information that's goes beyond what's written on the page.
Yeah, Xavier goes from not really following to kind of serious to very, very surprised in not a very long span, and I feel like it gets across exactly what he's going through really well. Um, so Moira McTaggart is this is a character that I feel like isn't super well known, but has been around in comics for quite a bit. She's pretty much just a human ally of the X Men.
Yes, and she was in the 90s cartoon. If you remember her, she was around a little bit. She was a friend of Charles Xavier's.
Uh,
Oh, I did not. I guess I didn't watch enough of that.
she wasn't a very prominent character, but yeah, she was around a couple times in that. I want to say she showed up in like maybe like once or twice in the films, but it wasn't anything more than a bit role. So not a very well known character if you're going beyond comics, but she definitely has existed before.
Interesting.
And cutting into the X-Men Year 10, we see where Mystique and Toad left off. They return to Krakoa, and Toad is let to go do his own thing as Mystique goes over to the House of M, or the House of Magneto, where she meets him there and shows that they were able to get the data that they were sent out to get. And as she is about to give it to him, she takes it back and says that she has demands. And that's when Xavier shows up and says that he sees her demands and understands them, but that all mutants who want to live on Krakoa have to give something for it in order to live there.
Yeah, honestly, the thing I keep coming back to in this section is how the mutants seem to just be frolicking in the woods. That seems to be
Yes.
all they do all day long in Krakoa, which is real funny to me.
Yeah, just a lot of woods frolicking, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh huh.
Charles, I definitely agree with you what you were saying before, Sergio. I don't think he comes across as this warm, generous man here. Um, his just you see Mystique talking to Magneto, and Charles enters with just when she says she has demands, just says, "Do you now?" before very fancily, just very obstructionist, just saying, "Yeah, we're not doing any of that shit."
Mhm.
Uh huh.
Mhm. And even the line specifically what he says coming in. He's like, "Well, isn't helping your fellow mutant not enough? Is that not enough for you?" And immediately is just like, "Oh, okay, I see your demands. We'll work with that later." And Mystique even throws the line right back at him of, well, Xavier has demands in return, so maybe they can work together. And she says, "Is helping your fellow mutant not enough for Charles Xavier?"
And he just gives some fucking nonsense response to this. We're building a better mutant world, Mystique.
Mhm.
And everyone who would live in it owes something, and it's just like, come on, man. Like that's not an answer.
It's a non-answer.
Like,
It's not great. Although I did like Magneto here while he's in his house, which is also, again, a very gorgeous house. They seem to have some sort of combination of tree and foliage kind of grown into structures here. But he's enjoying himself and just kind of reminiscing on the effect that Krakoa already has on everybody as they frolic about, that everybody seems hopeful and optimistic for once, which, coming off of what Tim was saying with the last run, is kind of a big change. Everybody actually seems happy here.
yeah, you got all the woods frolicking.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you don't need anything else. And, keeping up with all of the happiness that all the mutants have, we go to the X-Men at the year 100.
yeah.
Uh,
Peaceful times.
It's going fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's going completely fine as a human is trying to extract the memory information from a dying mutant in what looks to be a very clearly a war zone of some kind.
yeah.
Uh,
I think we learn later this is Percival.
yes, yeah, we learn later that this is Percival. This is one of the very, very few surviving mutants on the planet Earth, and that they, as we will learn as we go on, a very small mutant strike force kind of tried to enter into this area, steal information, and get out. Percival unfortunately was a casualty of this as he was killed, but the humans, and more specifically the sentinels and robots that are around them, are able to capture a mutant named Silabel. They are able to capture her, and we are shown the two mutants from the tarot cards, Rasputin and Cardinal, are nearby and are debating whether or not they should actually risk to go save her. Rasputin kind of takes charge in that and says, no, she's not going to leave her sister, and rushes into the fray by herself against dozens of humans and sentinels to try and save her. And honestly, the panels that she has as she's trying to do this are really well done.
Yeah, they're really sick. I really like the composition, and I really like how dynamic the action looks. I feel like this is the stronger section in these two issues regarding like action and battle scenes. It's all really cool. I also really like the mechanical design, not only on the actual mechanical characters, but also like the way the sword moves. I like the kind of wrist spider information extraction tool that Percival, no, the person who's trying to extract information from Percival uses. It's all very cool. I really like this like whole design style.
Mhm. Mhm. No, I
I
agree with
like
you.
how the robot has like extendable heads,
Oh, that
like
it's
they
great.
extend out of
Yeah.
its neck. It's really really sick.
The page where it's Rasputin just leaping through the air with the sword, and then you turn the page for her to it's her just kind of busting straight through the three-headed robot. Is it
Yes,
looks real sick. Like
it really does.
Cardinal wants none of this, by the way. He's going to make a gate.
Yep.
And it's discussed just a little bit here from Rasputin to Cardinal, but Cardinal is a pacifist. He has taken a vow against violence and will not fight even to save another mutant from all of these sentinels, which is why Rasputin goes out by herself to do it. And despite very easily beating a lot of these individuals, she's just sheerly outnumbered by the amount of humans and sentinels that are nearby and is unable to save Silabel, and instead has to leave with Cardinal through one of the gates and is gone.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I mean, this presumably is 100 years after the events that we have been seeing so far, and the X-Men still seem to be unable to build a team to save their lives.
yeah, no, it
Maybe don't send a pacifist to the war zone.
yeah. To be fair, we I don't know if we know what this dead person had going for him, but yeah, this doesn't seem great because it really does feel like Rasputin's failure here is not so much getting overpowered. It's just there's too many of the Sentinels and the humans, and she is one person trying to rescue someone.
Yes, and even despite being one person, she seems to be invulnerable. She has metallic skin, like Colossus does, and every shot they shoot at her just bounces right off of her. A sentinel that is massive tries to crush her with its hand, and instead she shrugs it off and cuts it off. So,
Uh-huh.
fighting doesn't seem to be her problem, it's just numbers, which is really unfortunate. And actually, talking about Cardinal being a pacifist, we go to our next layout of a bunch of information called the Sinister Line.
Oh, I
This
this
is
is
actually, I feel like this is actually the one of these that I would like to have seen on panels instead of having this whole thing written out. And I wonder, there's no need to answer this, but I wonder if we're ever going to see this um, being actually shown, at least part of it, because it sounds interesting. It sounds like something that would be like its own story.
yeah, I agree. I think everything in these like 2 pages is incredibly interesting. I wish we did get to see a little bit more of this. Yeah, so let's talk about it a little.
Yeah, do you want me
Um,
to describe it a little bit?
yeah, go for it.
Okay, so it says here that the Sinister Line is Mr. Sinister created the mutant breeding pits of Mars. As the human sentinel and mutant war was beginning, mutants needed more numbers. So in comes Mr. Sinister and starts to create chimeras, which are the combinations of genetic material of different mutants. So, say you wanted the healing powers of Wolverine and the mental powers of Jean Grey. He could make that mutant by making a chimera.
Something I do want to touch on real quick. They describe this thing called the Lost Years, which I find very interesting. Apparently, all of the mutant leadership just disappeared for a period, which is kind of how he ended up doing this whole mutant breeding thing on Mars. Um, and apparently, this was some purpose.
Yes, because we find on the next page that the fall of Krakoa and the destruction of the Martian breeding pit is directly preceded by the betrayal of Mr. Sinister. Um, I don't actually know that much about Mr. Sinister as a character going into this. I knew who he looked like because I want to say he was in one of the Spider-Man cartoons. I think that, or I'm
Uh,
thinking of a completely different character. Um, but I didn't really know who he was. So he's just a new character. He can make genetic mutants, and apparently is only in this for himself, even in the future.
Look, I feel like I know enough about Mister Sinister with his name. That's all I need to
yeah,
know.
yeah. I mean,
But I
his
Yeah,
didn't.
name is Mr. Sinister. Like that's an issue. But yeah, we kind of go through that. There's been like a bunch of different generations of chimeras, and yeah, so, some of them worked better than others. Specifically, the fourth one seemed to um, have a giant systematic failure of 40%.
yeah. And at first, it's just described that while these chimeras are bred for war, that these failures developed passive peacetime traits. Um, all of these mutants had personality profiles that led themselves to be pacifist and apparently an obsession with creation myths, which is oddly specific.
Yeah, so this is where the Cardinals came from. Also, I misspoke. It was a 62% failure rate. They annihilated 40% of the mutant population and caused the fall of Krakoa.
Yes, and it's implied that that massive failure rate is specifically because of Sinister, and he did it on purpose.
Uh huh.
So, but luckily for the mutants of 100 years from now, Mr. Sinister was publicly executed, so they're good now.
He was publicly executed by the Man Machine Supremacy, which is after defecting. So he betrayed them, and then to the Man Machine Supremacy, and the Man Machine Supremacy said, "Yeah, nah," and just killed this dude.
I mean, they knew what to do with someone called Mister
Yeah,
Sinister. To be fair.
Yes,
it's just the correct move. Um, we also see the different mutants that make up Rasputin's power set, and yeah, there's a reason she's real broken. One of the deep cuts here. So she's got five different powers. She has Kid Omega's power, which is like the telepathy. Colossus's power, which is the metal skin. Bane, that one's a little bit of a deep cut. That is Unos the Untouchable. That's how she makes force fields. Kitty Pride, so she can be intangible, and Lara, who is a Wolverine, and which gives her healing on top of all of that. So yeah, she seems kind of broken.
and just a little bit. So after getting all of that descriptions, we go to where one of the tarot cards showed us, which is the Tower of Nimrod the Lesser, the human machine monolith, which is just a giant white spire in a city skyline. And the human hunters bring Silabel before Nimrod, and I'm not sure who that other individual is. She looks like Karima
Uh,
from the first issue.
Nimrod calls her Omega. If this is the same character, that is definitely intentional.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, we can just refer to her as Omega here. I'm not entirely sure if this is the same character or not. Um, but yeah, I think this is supposed to be Karima. Um, Nimrod is another character who has been seen in the comics before. This is we've seen a Nimrod before. This one feels even more threatening somehow.
Yes. And am I correct in saying Nimrod is a type of Sentinel?
You could be. I honestly don't know exactly.
Okay. Okay, because
Evil
I wasn't
machine for
sure.
sure.
Definitely evil machine. And we get to immediately see his evil machine side as the humans bring Silabel to him. And before anything else, he goes to her and says, I'm sorry for what we did to you. And says, you know, because robots are so perfect and we do everything correctly, I don't know how we messed up so badly that we made you.
Yeah,
And
it's real fucked up. It's
it's,
not
yeah, it's really fucked up.
it's not I'm sorry, what we did was horrible. It's yeah, you were a terrible idea. We shouldn't have done this.
Oh yeah, he has zero sympathy for her.
Yeah, he's apologizing. This is not an apology. She sees through this immediately. Also, she just can't really do anything about it.
Yeah,
Uh huh.
and calls him out for it, and that just makes him very happy. He's like, "Great, that's the spirit. That's what I need you to do." And they go through this, and Omega and Nimrod ask her if she will betray her fellow mutants and tell them what they stole from the Nexus, in which she says, "Absolutely not." So
Uh huh. I
they're
really like Omega's Mega Man style
Oh,
uh,
her gun thing.
hand cannon
Yeah, yeah,
here.
yes.
it's real good. It's a cool design.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, we
No,
get
Tim, you were gonna say something?
oh, no, no, we can keep going. We got to talk about baths.
Yes. So, the one of the human hunters suggests that maybe they should put Silabel through the wash and see what comes out, which Nimrod again gets really excited about.
Oh, he is
Uh,
gleeful. He does
he's
a
Yeah, he's
little.
giddy.
Yeah, he is incredibly excited. He does a little fist pump when Omega gives him the go ahead. Um, I do really wonder what their relationship is here. Um, Nimrod is over here sitting in the throne, but does seem to need permission for some of this stuff.
Yes, I noticed that as well. I don't know if it's just their dynamic or if he's actually in charge or not, but it kind of adds to it makes him seem whimsical almost as he's doing this, despite what the bath ends up actually being, which is really, really fucked up, honestly.
Oh, this is
Uh,
horrifying. Yeah.
Uh huh.
yeah, it's extremely horrifying. So Nimrod gets permission to put Silabel through this, and he calls forth this massive machine that has a bunch of glass containers, essentially. And he tells Silabel that, again, he's very sorry for what he's about to do, but he built a repository to create a monument to understanding the mutant anomaly. And what he needs to do is he needs to capture mutants, put them in this fluid, and an AI of his own making will very, very slowly over time replace all of her organic material with machine. So that eventually they can take everything that she is, break it down into code, and understand it.
Yeah, you just slowly dissolve into not a real person.
Yeah, this asshole. I really think this guy's a really good antagonist. I really enjoy how the contrast between how he treats Silabel and is it Silabel in this?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Mhm.
and the giddiness and the glee with which he kind of interacts with Omega is really striking, and it works really well to making him a really hateable antagonist. Him echoing the like "please forgive me" again after he just said it in the most uncaring way possible. It's really good.
Yeah, it's again just absolutely horrifying. It's just this dude is going to whimsically just do this terrible thing to you or
And
machine, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. He's very scary. Very much makes a good antagonist. I like the dynamic between Nimrod and Omega a lot here. It's kind of the whole like straight man type deal with Omega.
yes, and also the humans here. We haven't really touched on them a lot. Back when Rasputin was trying to save Silabel, one of the things that she and Cardinal were talking about is how humanity had lost its soul a long time ago and was now subservient to the robot supremacy, essentially. And the two humans here that bring Silabel to Nimrod are very much that. They essentially drop her off, kneel before Nimrod, tell him what happened, and then after that, it's out of their hands. They are just there to watch.
Oh, they even suggest something like I think the guy here is the one that's like I guess just give her a bath.
Yes, yes, he is the one that suggests the bath, but other than that, that's kind of all they do.
Yeah, they very much are just. doing their job and working for the machines now.
Yeah.
Uh huh. Yeah. Humanity not in a great position 100 years later either.
No,
No. I think honestly the only one in a good position in that 100 years are the robots. They
you
seem to
get
be doing
this.
pretty good.
You get this like Silabelle speech also when she's about to go under, talking about how like you think you can like threaten me and I'm gonna tell you what you want, and they're like, oh, we don't care. You're going to die, and I don't know. It's really really kind of scary.
Is there an element here of like not being actually able to die, of
Yeah,
like being preserved in some sort of way?
you're getting converted into data, so I guess you do die in the way of like you're not a person anymore, but I guess like you are still there, which just makes the whole thing just sound kind of torturous.
Yeah, I think there's some element of like not being granted any release when going into this machine, which makes it extra horrifying.
Right.
Yes, and it's brought up again later, what happens to her, which I think adds to that, where she's air quotes dead, but she's not fully dead. She's still
Yeah.
in there a little bit. And it kind of makes the next bit of information that we get all the worse. We're described what the kennel is, which is a sentinel mutant breeding camp. It's essentially a man machine ascendancy breeding program to produce something called hounds, which are basically lab grown mutants designed specifically to betray mutant kind.
Well,
And this is what Silable was, to be clear.
right,
Yes.
yes. There's two of them. The first weren't really bred for this, but they weren't super effective because of that. And then they made a modified version of it, which is what Silabel is, which is they're bred for betrayal
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
insurgency. The kind of the fun part about this is because they were bred for betrayal, instead of betraying the mutants, which is the goal, they betrayed the machines and sided with the mutants.
Yes, and one of the key aspects of them is they have black brains, which were created to not be readable by telepaths, so nobody can read her mind or anything like that. And they describe her as such a couple of times, and it's also why Nimrod apologizes to her the first time and was like, "Well, we thought you were a good idea, but you all kind of failed, so my bad."
Yeah, fun bit of hubris there with the double betrayal.
Yeah,
Yeah, I feel they definitely had that one coming. But yeah, the kennel has apparently been destroyed. It's just gone now.
yeah, they realized it was a bad idea and were like, we're just gonna sweep this away. So after that, we get back to Rasputin and Cardinal. They're in the No Place hub. Cardinal is explaining that he's a pacifist and that's why he didn't help Rasputin and hopes that she doesn't take it that hard. And she's clearly not happy.
I love this exchange. Cardinal says, "I would take her place if I could," and Rasputin's like, "Yeah, I wish you would."
Yeah,
It's
and
it's very cold, but yeah, I don't know. This dude feels like he kind of has it coming.
yeah,
Um, so something I feel like we haven't really mentioned here. Cardinal feels very specifically kind of modeled off a Nightcrawler.
yes. Yeah,
The
he has the same look, the same outfit. The biggest difference is that he is red instead of blue.
Yeah, even the faith aspects, I think, to the Cardinals, I feel like very they call back to the character of Nightcrawler a lot. Rasputin feels like she's very much just the sword she has feels very reminiscent of magic, and her appearance feels very reminiscent of Colossus in general. So yeah, I don't know. It's cool designs. I like them a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I feel like I miss most of these callbacks, but I do really like their designs.
Mhm. Mhm. And speaking of designs, as Rasputin and Cardinal get back to Krakoa, they report that Percival is dead and that Silabel is likely dead as well, but they were able to get their information. And they tell this to a very old Wolverine, somebody who looks like Magneto but is dressed in green, a very large plant man, and a floating individual with a blue skull for a face.
Yeah, so Blue Skullface here feels like he's supposed to be. If he's not, he's supposed to invoke looking like the character of Zorn. Technically, there's two Zorns spelled different ways, but with a very similar look. But yeah, uh, it's an old Wolverine, an old Magneto looking character, a Zorn looking character, and a Tree Man.
Yeah, these are just some gruffy dudes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
No one here has shaved in a
No,
while. Like,
no, razors are gone. They were eliminated years ago.
Hmm.
This is just what they
Yeah, that
have
makes
now.
sense.
And the last thing we get from this is that Wolverine says that the old man is waiting. We don't know who that is, but apparently the information that they stole was important enough to grant them an audience with this individual.
Yeah, I get the impression, I believe that from the conversation with Nimrod, that this was a very unusual intrusion, that like this isn't something that's easily accomplished. They made it through farther than it usually goes.
yeah, this definitely. Once we see the surviving mutants, I definitely think this feels like something that it's taken them a while to accomplish. But yeah, this feels like something they've been trying for a while and have just finally managed to get it done.
Right.
Yeah, which is shown in the next info drop that there are only about 8 surviving mutants on the planet Earth, or more specifically, Asteroid K. It used to be 10, but after Percival is dead and Silabella has been captured, it is now down to 8. So there are not that many mutants left.
Yeah, I think the explanation for where the other mutants are is pretty interesting too. Uh, so Shi'ar are typically mutant allies in space. They aren't always allies, but they do seem to enjoy the presence of mutants more than the rest of humanity, just from what I've gathered. Um, so they've taken in a decent amount of mutants. They got some of them on a transit station. These seem to be just this seems to be just like a kind of a haven for mutants, just where they are now. It's supposed to be a buffer zone between Shi'ar space and wild space, so I don't think it's the most I don't think it's the nicest place, is what I would gather from that. And then the second batch of mutants that we're told about is they have less than 2,000 mutants on the Shi'ar throne world, and they are specifically there to just be used for guardians, which is like combat purposes essentially.
And I'm curious, Sergio, did any of this make any sense to you when you read it?
No, I mean, I guess I get the gist of it,
Hmm.
but this really has so little impact on the story so far. I don't know if it's going to become relevant at some point,
Hmm.
but it's so immaterial right now that I kind of just skipped it over. Um, the ones that we care about are the ones
Yeah,
that we
it's
see on
these
that
eight
previous
here.
panel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
and these other ones, there seems to be a lot of them. I wish them well.
yeah,
I hope
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
good. But so far, I just really don't care all that much about them.
no, yeah, that's very fair. I think the interesting part about this is it seems like the way to. I would imagine the Shi'ar homeworld is the place to be, and it feels like the only way to do that is be very good at combat. Um,
Right.
but yeah, that's pretty much just my take from it.
Yeah, this feels less impactful than the previous information drops that we've gotten, mostly because it's just so immaterial to what's happening on the page.
Yeah, and yeah, I feel like the relevant information here is Asteroid K, which
Yeah,
we have 8 mutants left. We've seen 6 of them. Who are these other two? There's not very we don't got a lot going for us here.
No, not at all. And I kind of agree with Sergio that all the other info drops have been very pertinent to what is going on, where this one feels more like it's just table setting. Like it's there to give you something nice to read and give you more about the world, but there's only really one piece of information that's actually kind of important here.
Yeah, it's just a little kind of additional world building, but I would agree. I don't think it feels very important.
yeah.
But you know what is important? Silabel. because even in year 1000, she is still in a tube. She's really not doing well. As we're shown, a character called the Librarian in the archive of Nimrod the Greater in the Mutant Library is taking a helmet that looks very close to Professor Xavier's helmet and seems to be trying to save her, or at least the small bit of her that's left, and simply can't do it. Uh, I personally think this turns her fate into something incredibly horrifying, where even 900 years later, she is still being digested by the machine. And there is still a tiny bit of her soul left, but not enough for anyone to do anything with.
I'm curious because I read this as she's trying not to save the person, but just kind of like as a data preservation interest.
Yeah, like she's just trying to copy it.
Yeah, she's just trying to preserve the data. She's not interested in the well-being
Oh
of
yeah, yeah. Like
Xylobel.
we don't really care about Silabel here. We're just trying to copy this data. Um,
Yeah,
Huh, interesting, because that is super not the way I read it. I read it as this character very much trying to save what was there left of her.
yeah, I don't know. The specific wording of this just doesn't really lead me to that. It's just there's not enough soul to save, let alone copy, and like let alone copy feels like that's like the goal. Like they want to just copy her.
yeah. Plus, the librarian in the name kind of points towards her thing being data and information,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I
and
would say I think this the kind of like wide shot panel I think kind of leads to that conclusion too. I all of these panels I feel like are supposed to kind of look like books.
yeah, she's just another book to her.
Yeah.
Okay,
Um,
okay, yeah, I can definitely see that.
Floating head Nimrod here. I don't know if this is the same Nimrod or not. Looks much less threatening. Seems much less
I assumed it
whimsical.
was.
I feel like it's heavily implied that it's the same Nimrod, because it's a very small floating object, maybe about the size of the librarian's head, and it specifically says that Silabel not being able to be copied is its fault. That 900 years ago, he wasn't able to make this project correctly, and that's why it's failed. So I think it's really implying that it is the same Nimrod, just in a new form.
He says he simply wasn't built to maintain integrity for a millennium. So Nimrod has been operating for a while and was not meant to be doing that.
Yeah, which I think is kind of interesting because this is the second time we're now shown that Nimrod has done something incorrectly. First, we have the kennel and the hounds, and now we have this. It seems like with enough time, Nimrod is always like, "Oh, I did the wrong thing in the past. I shouldn't have done that."
They kind of briefly touch on a war here as well. The surprising end of the human machine mutant war.
Yes, and then we are cut to the librarian and Nimrod going to the roof of a building. It's in a very large futuristic city. And Nimrod mentions that it's good to be done with Homo sapiens, and it's good to be done with all of that. And the librarian kind of talks about how can they ever really be done with a legacy or the past, but it is a good thing that they always have to remember what happened so they will never let it happen again. And as this character is talking about that, we're shown a massive yellow force field around a lush green forest with birds in it. And as it zooms in through this forest, we get the silhouettes of a human man and a human woman in there, with the implication that Homo sapiens were a mistake, but they need to keep them around to remind themselves never to do that again.
I feel like the words here, the librarian, are very on point. Not really bad choice of words there, but more like telling. It's why we keep dinosaur bones around. This is a zoo.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is not something that they're doing out of the kindness of their hearts. This is something to look at and be like, oh, isn't that kind of neat?
Like here's where we keep some humans or mutants. I'm not really sure what they are, but yeah, it's called the preserve. Like this isn't. Yeah, this is not done out of love.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, this very clearly references like Eden, right? Like the Garden of Eden.
Mm-hmm.
And as a creation scene, it reminds me of the way the very first issue opens in House of X, which is also very reminiscent of some sort of creation scene with the people coming out of weird pots from a tree. Like this is evidently a different location and probably a different time, but I feel like there's a sort of echo here between the two scenes.
Well, yeah, and you gotta have like the second to last panel that I do think kind of supports that, where you got like the sun kind of shining in. It that's very much kind of how Krakow was depicted in House of X, where it's like this hopeful, bright place, and then you have it here where it's like very turned on its head.
Yes,
Where
Mm-hmm.
it feels like an inversion.
yeah, like this is not good. Like you got yourself a little bubble here, and you get to live here, but like we're it's something to point at, is what she says.
Yeah.
And now I have a question for you both. For this librarian, they don't look human. They don't look like any mutant we've seen. They're almost kind of alien in a way. What do you think they are? Do you think they're human? They're mutant? Are they something else? Because it's not really stated here.
Sergio, I'll let you go first here. I think I know the answer to this, so I don't want to answer this.
Okay. I guess that they're not human. I'm gonna guess that they have very little, if any, inheritance from humans. So I'm going to assume they are either alien or something that arised out of the machines. But I very much doubt that they have any trace of humanity in them.
Yeah, I think that was my original reading of it as well. I really did not see this character as like they just feel like a machine. A fair guess there. And I think that wraps up Powers of X, unless you want to talk about this quote at the end here from Rasputin.
Um, I think I am good. The quote here from Rasputin says, "You've forgotten that machines have no soul, and that the humans lost theirs a long time ago." And it's something that she says as she's about to decide to go try and save Silabel, just to remind Cardinal that somewhere along the line the humans chose the robots and never turned back. And it looks here like it didn't work out for humans either. It didn't work out for mutants or for humans, really.
Yeah, it humans made machines. Machines killed both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find it interesting that the humans ultimately ended up siding with the machines, which I guess makes sense if they were foolish enough to think that they had them under their control, being their creations and all. But they obviously hadn't read any sci-fi.
Yeah,
No.
that's really where the fuck up happens. They just got to read more X Men comics. Humans in the X Men world.
Uh huh.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and that's about it. I really like this issue as well. I like the jumping in between different timelines. I think it's uh, well structured. There was no weaker side. I think we got very little of year. I think it's year zero with the kind of past Xavier, the Xavier that I find more easily recognizable. Um, but I really liked all of the threads. I'm interested in to see where all of those is going. All of those are going.
That's actually probably a good thing to touch on, but I would agree with that. I think Year Zero Xavier feels like that is the Xavier that it feels like Magneto is describing in House of X, like this generous kind of loving man, and it's at some point something has changed because where he's at in year one versus the year zero just does not seem like the same character, or year 10.
Yeah, and I wonder. I wonder how close to the beginning of the first issue that we read that switch happened, because the ambassadors seem to be under the impression that if they were to meet with Xavier, they would find a way better or a more gentle treatment. when I just don't think so out of what we've seen from year 10 Xavier.
Yeah,
So I wonder if their idea of Xavier is just as outdated as mine was.
right. Yeah, it really just it does not feel like the idea of Xavier is what matches reality right now. But it's an interesting dynamic.
I'm really curious to see that thread develop.
So for our next episode, we will be covering issues 2 of both House of X and Powers of X. We will be taking these two at a time. So yeah, look forward to that. I believe our release date for these is going to be every other Friday. So we'll stay on a we're going to stay on a bi-weekly schedule. That might change. We'll try to let you know if it does change, but for now, that is the goal.
Yeah, these at least so far have been a bit dense. So I actually didn't expect this episode to be so long. Um, so as long as this keeps up in terms of like density and the length of our discussions, I think two two every 2 weeks is reasonable.
Right, I would definitely agree with that. I think there's going to be a point where we could maybe start speeding it up, but we're not there yet.
Yes, I would agree with that. I think once we get to the end of House of X and Powers of X, we might be able to add in some more. But until then, we're going to get a lot of information.
Yeah, I would say for those first issues, when we start getting a lot of number ones, we should probably still stick to the 2 a week schedule. But once we kind of get into it, I think we can start moving up this pace a little bit. But yeah, for now, we're gonna stick with 2 a week.
hmm Uh,
Yeah, sounds great.
And then also a quick shout out to the artist that made our logo here. His name is Matthew Nielsen, or Nuclear Jackal, on Twitter and Instagram. He made this lovely image after we contacted him, and it is incredible. It's perfect and exactly what we had in mind when we went out looking for an artist. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. I feel like half of my energy comes from looking at that image and liking it so much. It's so good.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah. So I guess we'll see y'all next week, or rather 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, do you guys want to? I think you did not announce your Twitters.
No. So you can find me on Twitter at Fireblend. Oh, and we should probably shout out the Twitter account for this podcast, which is at a study of X.
Yes,
I don't know if we're gonna have any content by the time you're listening to this, but you should still give us a follow. We'll probably try to at least announce episode releases over there.
yes. Chris is gonna post memes probably.
More than likely, yes.
Yeah.
And also, retweet actual information about the comics, but mostly memes. And if you're looking for my Twitter, it's at Sonics at twitter.com. It is SAWNEEKS.
Don't find me on Twitter.
No, Tim is intangible. You cannot follow him on Twitter. I'm sorry.
I exist in this podcast space and only this podcast space.
hmm
Yep, that's how we design him.
Yep. Yeah.
All right.
I guess it's a good spot to end it.
How do you close a podcast?
That's a good question.
We need a closing line here.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, mutants.
Bye. Bye, mutants.